Students, in this video, I would like to introduce you to Wofford OneSearch. I'm not going to make this too in-depth. I just want to give you enough familiarity with it um, to be successful as first-year students. To put it simply, Wofford OneSearch is a Google-like service, and it's searching our library's trusted resources, our physical resources, and our online resources. So by physical resources, I mean our 100,000 plus books, our 7,000 plus DVDs. A lot of the best films are not available yet as streaming videos and will not be for some time. And then it's searching our archives, those resources devoted to the college's history, and searching our rare books and manuscripts, our special collections. So those are the physical resources. Then it's searching the online resources that we pay top dollar for to help you meet the rigorous demands of the college's curriculum. I'm talking about hundreds of thousands of electronic books, electronic journals, electronic magazines, newspapers, streaming videos, digital images, data sets, and databases. Now, the databases, some of them are devoted to a variety of disciplines. JSTOR would be a good example of this. Concerns all of the humanities and sciences and social sciences, but other databases are devoted to specific disciplines: anthropology, sociology, psychology, physics, biology, finance, English literature, modern languages, philosophy, religion. You get the idea. As you take higher and higher level classes, and as you develop interests in particular disciplines and major in those disciplines, you're going to become interested in approaching certain topics from the perspective of your discipline. Let's take the example of gun control. You may have an approach to gun control as a political science or government major. You may have a different approach as a sociologist. You may have a different approach as a philosopher or ethicist. See? So when you want an approach that's steeped in the concerns and rigors of your discipline, the database is a great option. But Wofford OneSearch enables you to search all 200 databases at once. And what people love about that is you sometimes will find, or oftentimes will find, a resource in a database that you never would have thought to look in for your discipline. So it's a really great place to do some broad searching before you turn to your databases of choice. So enough about description. There is Wofford OneSearch in a nutshell as far as what it is and what it searches. I forgot to mention that we also include open access scholarly resources, the types of resources you would get using Google Scholar. So those we incorporate into Wofford OneSearch, and you can even limit yourself to open access resources. But students generally want to search our trusted and very valuable online resources in addition to those scholarly resources that are available free online, sometimes because the research done was conducted with public money or government funding. And thus, the researchers have to provide their results free to the public. Enough of all of that. Let's get into Wofford OneSearch. I'm going to search from our homepage, our library's homepage. So here you see the central search box, and that central search box is devoted to Wofford OneSearch by default. And so I can start typing in this box and click search and go right into the results in Wofford OneSearch. But before I do that, I want to point out a few features here that we have created to meet students' requests. Notice here this keyword drop down menu. Right now, the default's keyword, which means you're searching everything, the title of the resource, you're searching the full text, and sometimes the resource will have descriptors or subjects telling you what the content's about. Well, if you search keyword, you're searching all of that. So that's the broadest type of search, but you can limit your search just to the title by clicking on title. Or you can click on author creator and search only the names of the authors or creators of the resource. You can click on subject and then look exclusively at the section of the resource that's telling you what it's about. And so these distinctions can be very time saving. Let's say you're looking at Shakespeare, the playwright and poet. I could say, give me author, creator, and type in Shakespeare. And that way I'm looking only at the things he wrote or had a hand in creating. That would include film adaptations, for example. But if I then click subject and run Shakespeare as a subject, I'm searching only those resources about Shakespeare. So it's a great distinction there, author title versus subject. I'm going to stick with keyword for the sake of our demonstration. One more thing to point out here before we start searching. Notice it says include in results newspaper articles and book reviews. Students tell us they do not like to be bothered with those initially. And so we've enabled them to exclude those from their search results. But if you want to include newspapers, you simply check that box, include newspapers. And if you want to include book reviews, you click that box or check that box for book reviews. I'm going to leave them unchecked because once we are inside Wofford OneSearch, you'll see how easy it is to add them to your search from inside Wofford OneSearch. So this environmental studies major came to me and said, hey, Tim, I want to do a search. Would you help me? I said, sure. I said, what are you interested in? And she said, energy. I said, that's the term you want to start off with. I said, that's very vague. She said, yeah, but I want to start with that. I said, well, you're the boss. So we went with just plain energy. And so we're searching again everything we have access to, and we come up with 6,109,000 results. And notice here, book reviews are crossed out and newspaper articles are crossed out because we did not want to include them. But if we wanted to include them, I would simply click on that X beside book reviews and I would add book reviews, and I could come over here and do the same with newspaper articles. And now those results are added to those that we had initially. And so we've increased our results by around roughly 40,000 results. Okay. So the student said, Tim, I want to refine my results. I want to add some keywords. I said, I think that's a great idea. And so she said, I'm interested in renewable energy. And so she could come up here beside energy and type in renewable, but she opted to add renewable on a separate line. And she, like most students, like to keep their searches clean and orderly. So they like to put one search term or one search phrase per line. And so she simply added renewable. And notice here she's searching energy, and you see this drop down option here, and renewable. When you use that word and, you're saying, I want my resources to be about energy and renewable. If you wanted to, you could say or. And if you say or, you're saying I'll take resources about energy or renewable. So your results will increase in size if you use or, whereas if you use and, you're saying I want resources that concern both. You also have the feature of not. You can say, I want resources that concern energy, but not renewable. Just want to point those operators out to you. But here, let's go back to the original setup of and. That's what the student wanted. She says, Tim, I want to add another phrase. I said, great. She said, I've been reading about how you can use the ocean's tide to generate power. So he typed in the phrase tidal power. And we then ran our search. And so we had energy, renewable. We are now using tidal power, and we now get down to 2,400 results. Didn't mean to do that. Let's X out of that. I'm not ready to go there. So I just wanted you to see how powerful Wofford OneSearch is. By adding 3 phrases, we've gone from 6 million results to 2,400. All right. So the student had these 2,400 results. And she said, Tim, my professor said that something he wants me to find would be a book or books about the topic. And so we came over here to this left-hand column of filters, and notice you can limit your search to online resources. You can limit to scholarly peer-reviewed. You can limit to held by. If you click on held by, you're limiting your search to physical items in our library, resources that you can hold. So we clicked here on books for her, And so we're now looking at 110 books on energy, renewable, and tidal power. So we've gone from 6 million to 110. And she said, Tim, let's look to see if we have any print books. So we click held by library. So we're now saying, would you please give us those books that are held in the library? And we found one book. It's a 1996 publication. It says right here, 1996. It says 1996 right there. And so it's telling you this book's on the lower level of the library and it's giving you the call number so you can go to that specific spot in the stacks to pull the book off the shelf and then bring up, if you care to our front desk to check out and take home. We'll be talking about these call numbers when you come into the library with your FYI classes to meet with me in person. So the student said, let's X out, Tim, here of this held by library. Let's look at books that are held online. So we came here to full text online. So we're now looking at online books. And these books were right up the student's alley. She was particularly fond of the first five or six. This one here at the top. Notice over here on the left is we've got this sort by feature, and these are sorted by relevance. The ones that are most relevant to our search are at the top. You can resort these from newest to oldest or oldest and newest. You could sort them alphabetically by title or alphabetically by author. You have all these options. I'll stick with relevance though. And so we clicked on this first, or she clicked on this first title, and she was familiar with some of these options, but let's have you take a look at them. You've got this citation generator, and you click on that, and it's asking, right, would you like a citation for this book to include in your paper or presentation? If so, would you like it in the Modern Language Association style, the Chicago Tribune, or the American Psychological Association? Those are the three most popular. And then you have some other options here. But the MLA style is used most commonly by the English department, the modern languages department, history. The Chicago Tribune style, very popular in history and oftentimes religion and art history. And then the APA style, the American Psychological Association, of course, psychology, but also anthropology and sociology. So you click on your flavor of choice and you've got a citation to copy and paste into your paper. You can email a link to this ebook. If you wanted to share this with a friend, you could email or send it to yourself. You could email this link and the person could click on that and go right to this particular book. I'm going to scroll down here now and notice here I have a description of the book and I've got the contents, the different titles are given here. And so this is a really quick way to determine whether this book is worth looking at further. The student decided, yes, this is worth looking at further. Notice here under subject, you've got tidal power plants, and hydraulic turbines. Those are all keywords that the student later used to fine tune her search. These are subjects that this book concerns, and so she picked those up to look for related resources. You come here to this view online, it's simply telling you that we have this ebook through two collections, eBook Central and Wiley Online Library. And so usually the resource given at the top is the resource that has the most or the more user-friendly interface. So I want to click here on eBook Central. And it's going to say, do you accept these preferences? Yes, I accept those preferences. I can then come over here to this read online, click read online, and I bring up the full text of the book. I'm going to move this caption here. Notice those three dots with the lines. You click on that, you get the table of contents. You can now have all the titles. You can identify the title that most interests you. I remember the student looked at this Chapter 3, low-speed hydrokinetic turbines. You click on Chapter 3, you now have the entire chapter to scroll through, images and all. And you can click this printer icon, and it's asking, are there specific pages you would like to print? You can, usually the student's going to select current chapter, but you can select specific pages from within the chapter. If I click here on chapter, I'll get the entire chapter. I can click continue, and I'll then have the option of printing off the PDF or downloading the PDF. And so I can readily download that entire chapter to my machine. I can later print it off or mark it up. I also can email it to a friend, or maybe if I'm working closely with a professor, I want to share a chapter I have found with the professor for him or her to review. All right, so that's how easily you can navigate the electronic book. Let me show you one more feature before we leave the electronic book. It's the magnifying glass here at the top. You click on it, you get this search within book box. You can type in a word or two or three, however many. I want to keep this simple. I'll type in turbine and then click on magnifying glass, and it's now taking me to all the chapters that mention turbine, and the number beside the chapter indicates how many times that chapter references turbine. And so you can really tell which sections of the book are most likely to be pertinent to you or your topic of choice. And so if I click on chapter two, it's taking me to all the sections of that text with the keyword or keywords I've typed in. I can go to a particular page and you'll see that the word you highlighted as being important is highlighted on this page for you to go right to. It's just really robust features available to you in this electronic book. I'm going to go back to Wofford OneSearch. I'm going to X out of that book's display. The student next said, "Hey, Tim, I need to find scholarly peer-reviewed journal articles." So we came over here to this reset filters and we wiped all of the filters out. We then came over here to this availability function and it says scholarly and peer-reviewed journal articles. She clicked on that and we're now looking, folks, at 1,488 scholarly peer-reviewed journal articles, as professors often request that you limit yourself to. You're looking at the best quality information, and these resources are always going to tell you where they get their information from. We'll see how important that is in just a minute. But I can come down here as the student needed for us to do. She said, "Tim, I need to look at articles published within the last 10 years." So we clicked on publication date. Notice that our articles date from 1971 to 2025. And so we changed 1971 to 2015, clicked refine, and we're now looking at just the last 10 years of articles. She wanted to look through these and remember these are coming from 200 databases. So you don't want to look at just the top 5 or 10. You're going to want to drill down 50, 60, 70 results because you keep finding good information. You can look at their titles and their descriptions and their tables of contents to determine which articles are most important to you. And as you're scrolling and looking at the articles, you'll come up with additional terms to search. I remember the student and I came up with the phrase tidal energy, not just tidal power, but tidal energy. Uh, and so wave energy was another phrase we came up with. So just a variety of terms you'll want to try searching uh, to refine your results. All right, so the student scrolled through these. And I remember there were dozens here she was very excited by, but this one grabbed her attention. Number 6, current trends and prospects of tidal energy. It was talking about the latest developments and things that we're on the cusp of discovering with regard to this technology's potential. And this was a 2021 publication. So she clicked on this title. She saw the citation generator. Uh, she came down here and saw all these subjects that she could use to refine her search. She saw a description of the article, but she realized, yes, I definitely want to check this out. So she came up here to the online provider. She clicked on the top one. She brings up the full text of the article. And she scrolled up to the top, and you have the authors given. The article tells you where these scholars are from, the research institutes, the universities, the colleges. This abstract or summary is written by these scholars, so it's rich with keywords to then take to search with. But you have the full text article right here, folks. Everything: text, graphics, tables of contents, uh, graphs, bars. So here you scroll to the bottom and you get to the references page or the works cited page or the bibliography page. It's going to be under one of those phrases or titles. But this lets you see all the resources these scholars consulted in developing this argument or in presenting this information. And so some of these are, you see here readily available. You just click and go right to them. But Wofford OneSearch makes this super convenient. You can go back to this record and go back to its brief display and notice you've got the down arrow and the up arrow. If you click the down arrow, Wofford OneSearch is going to give you the resources that this article cited, all of the ones you just saw in that references section. If you click the up arrow, Wofford OneSearch is going to give you all of the articles or books that cite this article. So I'm going to click the down arrow and I see here 20 articles that I can then click and go right to. These are articles that were cited again by the article we found to be of interest. I can go back to the brief display of that article. I can click the up arrow, and this time I'm looking at 68 resources that cite the article. Two important things here. These articles are going to be published more recently than the article we were initially interested in, and they're going to be related with regard to topic to that article we found interesting. So this list is a great way to update the information we had found so interesting in the article we found initially. All right. So one more thing to share, and then we'll X out of Wofford OneSearch. The student said, "Hey Tim, I really like some of these searches we're generating." And so she said, "I like to go back to them." I said, "Well, that's easy. Come up here to the top of the screen. You see that URL. You can copy and paste that URL into an email message to yourself or to a partner. Say you're maybe in a class doing research with a peer. And when you click on that URL in your email, you go right back to the search as you generated it, all the keywords, all the filters, just as you had them. And it's ready for you to revise. You can start tinkering with it once you bring it up. There's another option here. It's this QR code in the menu bar. You can click on that. You've got this QR code to make a snapshot of. Um, and then once you click on that on your phone, you can go right to the search you had generated. Folks, there in a nutshell is Wofford OneSearch. Again, it is a means by which to search the best resources efficiently. I was asked by a student this past summer to meet with some high school students. She was taking on a tour of the college. She wanted me to talk with these high school students about research resources. And so she said, "Tim, would you show them the Wofford OneSearch?" And so before I did, I said, "Would you, as a student, describe for them Wofford OneSearch?" And she said simply, "Game changer." And I said, "Would you flesh that idea out for these students?" And this is your peers' language. She said, "It saves you time, and the time you save, you can devote to digesting or processing the information and then to writing things up in the form of a paper or a presentation or another project, say a PowerPoint presentation." But she said it really does reduce the stress. So I'll leave you with that thought. I thank you for your time. I look forward to seeing you and your classes in the library soon. Take care, folks.